Welcome back to another FPL Best Free Hit team. We're at the end game now with Game Week 38, the final one of this season. I'll be building the best 50-man squad using this chip, and if you have the wildcard, I mean, what have you been doing? But you can also apply this squad with that chip as well, and this will help those without any chips with your free transfers and possibly the hits you want to take, a -4, a -8. We'll delve into all of that throughout the week with all the FPL content, the team selection, potentially a transfer tips, and of course the deadline stream. If you want to see anything else on this channel, be sure to let me know. It's very likely I will do Euro Fantasy content, and once I know that for sure, I will confirm it on the channel. And of course, for the Champions League final in matchday 13 on the 1st of June, we will be there for UCL Fantasy with all the usual content for that fantasy format as well. Smash the like button and subscribe for new. RMS to get this video to over 100 likes at the very least, and let's keep on pushing towards 25,000 subscribers and beyond. We'll try to get to that goal very soon. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links like my Patreon, also the channel memberships, Discord server, FPL League, FPL Challenge, Drafthound, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast if you enjoy the content. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Burnley were relegated in double game week 37 against Tottenham despite taking the league, but Muric has been incredible for Burnley ever since getting into that starting 11. That's 4 successive returns now, and he averages 5 points per game in FPL, 7 points against Sheffield United, 8 points against Manchester United, 10 points against Newcastle, and then 5 points against Tottenham away. Those are incredible returns for a 4.3 million goalkeeper who has very low ownership, and Burnley concede many goals and so many chances in every single game, but Muric can still walk away with at least 4 points due to the saves potential and bonus points. So Muric could even be your starter in Game Week 38, so you can invest more money into the outfield players, but he'll be the backup goalkeeper, and I'm going for a reliable goalkeeper who's kept the most clean sheets this season in the best defence in the league, and I'm going for David Raya to trip up on Arsenal. That is the current plan, but I will discuss some alternatives in each position as we go through this video and podcast. I would start David Raya and have Muric on the bench, and there are alternatives like Edison for Manchester City. You've also got a few others here and there like Petrovic at home to Bournemouth, but I think Raya and Muric are two of the best goalkeepers in Game Week 38. Gabriel was colossal at the back once again at Old Trafford, a 7-pointer. Him and Saliba were incredible in that game, and they have performed so well this season in the vast majority of matches. They both should have been nominated for the Premier League Player of the Year, in my opinion. Those two omissions, alongside the likes of Ben White, Saka, and especially Rodri, are criminal in my opinion, but it is what it is, and of course you can't have everyone nominated from the same team. But Gabriel is a very good FPL option. He will probably be priced at 5.5 million next year, possibly even 6, and that could make you go for other options going into the next campaign. But whilst he's priced at 5.4 million as an absolute bargain, go for Gabriel. Even if you don't go for David Raya in goal and no other Arsenal players, try to go for an Arsenal defender, and I think Gabriel is just the best in terms of value. But White and Saliba, if you've got the extra funds, are also very good options, and with Ben White, he's more of a differential. So if you are looking for those punts that could really do the job for you and gain you some rank in the last game week of the season, Ben White would be my pick. But with this squad, I'm not able to afford Ben White, and I've gone for Gabriel as a result. But we've got 4 defender slots left, and really the priority is the midfield and attack, as it usually is. But you can't neglect any position, and the same goes for Game Week 38. There are some good defender options across the board. I'm going to go for a defender who got 11 points in Game Week 37 so far. Let's see how he does against Manchester City tomorrow night on the Tuesday, and I'm on about Mickey van der Ven, who I bought for a family member's team. Didn't buy him myself, but it was a great goal he scored to give Tottenham the victory over Burnley, and he's also so cheap. Now, would you start him in this Game Week 38 team? I'll talk about this in the FPL.team section, where I highlight the starting 11 and the captaincy. You could, and I think a double up in Spurs defensively could be the play this week. It's not something I'd advocate very often, but in Game Week 37 with a double, and also in 38, it could certainly pay off. Pedro Porro's the other defender who scored in that game against Burnley, and he's the one you really want for Game Week 38 against Sheffield United. But Romero was the most informed player. I think those that bought Romero have been very unlucky so far, but there's still a second game in 37, and you never know, he could score against Sheffield United. I think any of those 3 defenders would be good picks. I wouldn't go for the likes of Emerson Real, who was benched against Burnley. It was Oliver Skipp playing at the left back position instead, and Vicario in goal just isn't making enough saves or getting enough points and bonus points to really justify an inclusion over Van der Ven, Romero, or Pedro Porro. But of course, you'd rather go for Porro over Van der Ven in a starting 11 if you don't want to double up on Spurs defensively, and we can't go without mentioning the Croatian Gvardiol when building a best free hit team. He's in incredible form right now. It's a purple patch, you could argue. He is a quality player with so much potential, and you could see a very high ceiling for him in this Man City team. But what he's done since April has been astonishing. He's the new Gundogan, but from left back, which is insane considering he's actually a centre back. But Gvardiol has a lot of quality. He's by far the best way to cover Man City defensively. And you've also got Kyle Walker, who might start the last 2 games of the season in Gameweek 37, and of course against West Ham at home. But I would go for Gvardiol. There's no shadow of a doubt about that. Even Edison in goal is decent, but nowhere near the level of a Gvardiol. And finally, the 5th and last defender I quite struggled with, and you can kind of tell they're not going to be in the starting 11, but Cucurella is someone I've opted for. You can go for Petrovic in goal and start him. I wouldn't be too against that. I personally think Bournemouth have a good chance of scoring, and across all of the fixtures in Gameweek 38, I think a lot of them will have jam-packed action with so many goals on both ends. I don't see many clean sheets, but the most likely on paper for me are Arsenal, Man City and Tottenham, and that's purely based on the fixture right in front of them. I captained Foden in Gameweek 36, then switched back to Haaland in double Gameweek 37, so I've been on the wrong end of the stick with the captaincy in the last couple of weeks, but let's see what happens in that second game against Tottenham Hotspur. And Phil Foden is a great option on the free hit wildcard, using free transfers or taking hits for Gameweek 38 against West Ham at home. But if you want to go differential, Kevin De Bruyne is the one to go for. The problem is there is quite a big difference in their price tags, and that's another key reason why I generally prefer Phil Foden, who's also more nailed on. And you could say Kevin De Bruyne is starting every single game in the run-in when it really matters, but I'd still trust Foden to stay fit compared to a Kevin De Bruyne. Fitness is always the Belgians' issue. But Cole Palmer for me is another one, very template, but I'd still include him on the free hit. There is room for some differentials in the other midfielder slots, so it's not really too relevant if you're going for 2 template picks here. If you want to go fully differential, I wouldn't advocate a Madueke over Palmer, and I've always said this: if you were to go for Madueke, partner him alongside Palmer for double Gameweek 37 and potentially 38, but never one over the other. I think that's just asking for trouble, in my opinion. Now, the third midfielder is probably the best captaincy option in the game, at least in terms of the midfielders in Gameweek 38, and I'm going for Mohamed Salah in the final home game for Jurgen Klopp, and also potentially Salah's last game for Liverpool. I don't think that'll be the case, but it is a possibility, and I think Salah could really wreak havoc on Wolves, who are decimated by injuries and in very poor form themselves. And Liverpool have beaten Wolves in the final game of the season a few years back when they pushed Man City all the way. And Salah, for me, is just one of those players where when he's on it, he can really turn it on and get those goals and assists and a lot of FPL points. And if I had the funds, I'd be buying Salah this week and captaining him over Erling Haaland, but we'll get to that very soon. There are 2 midfield slots left, and I'm going to go for one that's locked in for now, and that's Heung-min Son against Sheffield United. It was very surprising to me that he blanked against Burnley. He got 20 points against them earlier this season and 10 points against Man City, so it has been disappointing for those that captain Son up until this point of the game week, but I think he's going to do very well against Sheffield United, irrespective of what happens against Man City, unless he were to get injured, and hopefully that does not happen whatsoever. I just think Son in the final game of the season against a relegated club, we've seen it all before against Norwich City a couple of years back. I think Spurs scored 5 that day, and Heung-min Son was the best captaincy option for Gameweek 38 on that occasion. But the next slot is so difficult for me. It's between 2 informed players who have been great all year. One of them's been injury prone, in and out of that side, but whenever he starts, he gets some massive returns, and the other one has been getting goals or assists in the run-in for Arsenal and really producing in the big moments. And I'm on about Kai Havertz. It's very rare for me to include him in a best wildcard or free hit team, but he's been so consistent now. It's not just a purple patch for a couple of weeks or a month. It has been 3 or 4 months of pure consistency in terms of goal contributions, and even longer with overall performances that contribute a lot to the Arsenal attack. But it's between Kai Havertz and Elise for that final midfielder slot. And I'm personally going for Havertz at the moment, but Elise has the highest ceiling if he can stay injury-free in Gameweek 38. I think he's a perfect final Gameweek punt who is very low owned and can really push you up the ranks and secure you a massive green arrow to reach the top 100k, top 10k. No matter what your objective is, I think Elise could be that difference maker, but I'll explain why very shortly. I'm currently favouring Kai Havertz and this midfield setup, but don't get me wrong, Elise is definitely on the periphery of entering this best free hit team. I'm going for a budget striker here just to fill the numbers and to be an enabler in Rodrigo Muniz. You could also consider Adebayo or Colton Morris. There could be plenty of goals in that Luton Town versus Fulham game, but I've gone for Muniz. Really, you can pick any single one of them depending on which team you back to win the game or to score more goals. I think any one of those three could certainly do the job, but the main man up front is Erling Haaland, who has been very disappointing in Game Week 37 so far, but typically follows that up with a goal. So of course, even if he blanks against Tottenham, I would expect him to do very well against West Ham in Game Week 38. I think Man City could win by 2, 3, possibly 4 goals against the Hammers. But Erling Haaland is definitely a captaincy consideration. He'll be the most template captain, but I would recommend going against him in certain cases if you want to push and gain rank, and maybe a Salah, Palmer, Foden or Son could do the job for you. Even Elise, if you were to go for him in the midfield. But the reason why I haven't gone for Elise just yet is because I want a Crystal Palace attacker in Mateta, and I also want to cover the Arsenal attack with Kai Havertz, and that's why I've gone for this balance. But don't get me wrong, a double up in the Palace attack right now looks incredible. Whether you go for Eze, Elise or Mateta, if you go for all three of them, it can pay off at the same time. And Aston Villa have faltered in recent weeks. They were beaten by Olympiacos in back-to-back games, conceding 6 goals in the process. And in the Premier League, the consistency has really fallen off a cliff and their players look jaded. They're conceding even more chances than usual, and they've always had that problem defensively throughout the entire season. Aston Villa have done a great job throughout the entire campaign, but it looks like they're on their last legs now, and I think Liverpool and Crystal Palace could do the job against them. But let's wait and see what happens there. Football is full of surprises, and form is malleable, class is permanent. Of course, there's a lot of different things that play a part. I'm very happy with this 15-man squad. Of course, certain individual picks you might really question, like Muric, Van der Ven, Cucurella, Muniz. I completely understand that, and even going for Havertz over Elise. But as I mentioned, I went for this kind of balance in the attack. Only Man City have an attacking double up with Foden and Haaland. That's tried, tested, and fully proven. And you can go for Elise and Mateta. I think the way they're playing under Oliver Glasner is a sight to behold, and they could really put Aston Villa to the sword in Game Week 38 as well. But Elise, I have to keep on stressing this. If you want a mega differential this week, go for Elise or Eze. I think they are fantastic in Game Week 38. Let's now head over to Drafthound and see what their player rankings are also indicating for the best options heading into the final game week of the season. And after that, using FPL.team, I'll show you the starting 11 for this best free hit team, as well as the captaincy and the vice. Check out the link to Drafthound in the description below. It's a great resource, especially as a pro paid team member, and I can't recommend it highly enough. There are so many different resources within this website, and my personal favorite is the player ranking. So going into next season, there's a lot of value to be had by signing up to Drafthound, so be sure to check it out and let me know what you think. Salah is top for expected points for the first time in many months, I believe, with 7.7. Haaland, Gvardiol, Palmer and Son complete the top 5, and a lot of Arsenal players fill up the rest of the top 10, with Odegaard, Havertz, De Bruyne, Saka and White. These expected points and minutes are updated daily, so be sure to check out Drafthound on a daily basis and see how things change depending on injury updates, form, and much more, which is taken into account. They've got the optimization tool, which I'll go into using the team selection. They recommend starting Foden, benching Bruno Fernandes, and also vice-captaining Gvardiol, who is 3rd in the player rankings for Game Week 38, which is quite rare for a defender in a single game week. So be sure to check out the link in the description below for Drafthound, and why not do the same for all the other links like the Discord server and the FPL League. But let's now head over to FPL.team, a free resource and one of the best ways to plan in FPL. In goal, I would go for David Raya. I personally think he's the best goalkeeper to round off the season, but there are some alternatives like Ederson and Petrovic. Even Vicario could be a decent option, but I've gone for Pedro Porro in the starting 11 with Gvardiol and Gabriel. Spurs might not be reliable defensively, but the fixture is certainly there for them, and it could be a case of Spurs looking to claw up the deficit for goal difference and score a lot of goals in the process. And I think Porro could really thrive against Sheffield United, who concede so many chances on their flanks. Havertz, Palmer, Son, Foden and Salah complete the midfield 5 with Haaland and Mateta up front, and the bench has Muric, Van der Ven, Muniz and Cucurella. So you have squad depth if necessary. If you are struggling for funds, you can downgrade some of these budget players and those on the bench in particular. I think Cucurella is the easiest one to downgrade. Go to any defender of your choice. Even a player like Branthwaite, who you might expect to concede, but he's an enabler, most importantly of all, so that's not too relevant in the grand scheme of things. Now, in terms of the captaincy, I personally favour Mohamed Salah but Haaland, of course, is the template pick. If you're looking to protect rank, that's definitely fine. Now, to go against Haaland, apart from Salah, I'd be looking for the likes of Palmer, Son and Foden, mainly the midfielders, and then you're maybe considering an Arsenal attacker like Havertz or Saka, and of course those Crystal Palace ones like Analyse, who for me is a mega differential this week, and he could easily get another double-digit haul to round off the season. So that's kind of where my head's at. I think Salah's the best captain, and then you're looking at the likes of Haaland, Foden, Son, Palmer for the captaincy. Analyse is my top tip as a differential, and if you don't really mind going for 2 Crystal Palace attackers, go for Analyse, why not? And even with those extra funds, by downgrading Havertz, you could even upgrade Mateta to a Jackson if you wish, or go in a different direction. You could perhaps get Isak or a Watkins. It's completely up to you how you want to play this. Back your gut. I think there's going to be a lot of goals throughout all of the games, and Game Week 38 typically is one of the highest scoring game weeks of this season. It's pretty much a historical trend, and I wouldn't be surprised if the same happened yet again. There is still a lot to play for certain clubs, especially Arsenal and Manchester City. Those games could be cagey or cagier than you expect, especially the Arsenal-Everton game, but I still firmly believe there's going to be a lot of goals in the grand scheme of things, and clean sheets will be very hard to come by. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 100 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 25k subscribers and beyond. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, FPL League, FPL Challenge, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It'd go a long way to supporting the channel. By all of this, you also are letting me know that you want to see Euro Fantasy Football content. So if this video gets to over 100 likes and perhaps even to 200, I'll know that the feedback is certainly there and you want to see more Euro Fantasy Football content and more football talk in general throughout the summer. Take care, enjoy the football of course as always. I wish you all the best of luck for what remains in Double Game Week 37 and of course the final game week of the season in 38. And I'll see you next time.